everybody, I'm Philip, and today I'm here to talk about Stranger Things, Season 5, Part 3, Episode 8, the final episode of the season and the final episode of the series. In the last video on Part 2, I discussed that the finale was going to have an uphill battle. I think I even said that the finale had to be at least 2 hours long, and it was. But I think with shows like this that are so hyped, and have so much riding on the way it ends, that it's really kind of lose-lose no matter what you do. So I think the Duffer Brothers were definitely positioned between that rock and a hard place. Like, there was no way they were going to be able to write an ending that made everyone happy. So I watched it from that point of view, knowing that it might not stick the landing completely, but to just kind of accept it for what it was. I have some nitpicks still. So all that being said, I think if I had to sum up the finale in one word, that word would be fine. It was fine. It did what it needed to do. It had some high points, it had some low points, but as said, they had the unenviable task of wrapping up this cultural juggernaut, a decade in the making. It's not something that I'm angry about. I'm not going to look back and, grab a hammer and want to smash it to pieces with my opinion. This is from, yeah. Could it have been better? Yeah. Could it have been a lot worse? Yeah. So I think it was okay. It was okay. Mostly everyone got a happy ending. I did call a couple things in the last couple videos from Season 5. It happened how you thought it was going to happen. It went down the way you thought it was going to, and it was fine. So let's focus on the positives. There were parts I did like. I liked how everyone worked together to beat Vecna, so that was cool. It wasn't just Eleven by herself taking him on. You had the gang outside fighting. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. But you had them fighting on the outside. You had Will taking over Vecna from afar. And I liked that. I like that. I've said through each review of this season that I like that the gang feels like a gang. That everyone feels like they're working together. And I think that to wrap up the Vecna story like that, to find out, not what it was, but what happened to Henry, what was in the case, is very interesting. Raises more questions. But I kind of don't want answers, if I'm being honest. I'm good, I think. I think I'm good in the Stranger Things universe. I've heard rumors of spin-offs, which I would be okay with as long as it's not in Hawkins, as long as it has nothing to do with the Upside Down, or Vecna, or a freaking wormhole. So I did like that the gang all worked together. The Vecna fight went down how it should have went down, barring one massive inclusion. I liked how everyone got their stories with a bow. How Nancy was going to the college that I went to before I had to stop going due to finances. They're giving Nancy space to figure herself out. I like that. They're not jumping into marriage and family and all that stuff. That's cool. I like that Jonathan's in NYU and Steve is still in Hawkins. He's a coach. I like that each of the main cast got their own kind of happy-ish endings. Dustin's in school doing stuff. We see that Max and Lucas, they're together. We see Will has moved off to a bigger city where he's more free to be himself and find love. I like that, personally. I said it through each of the parts that I like that. I will be doing an overall season thing in the future. So I'm trying to hold off on overall thoughts. But, personally, I've been there. I grew up in small town Ohio. When I graduated, I got the hell out of here. And I went to big cities, and it was the best thing I ever did. The worst thing that ever happened to me was getting in the car accident that messed me up so bad I had to move back here. And I've been stuck here ever since. So, and Mike is telling the stories. He's typing them out. Hopper and Joyce are going to get married. They're possibly going to move away because they have no ties to Hawkins anymore. Murray can fuck off and die. I don't care. He's awful, and he is just the drizzling shit worst thing ever. Was it a bit saccharine? Yeah. But it was fine. It was fine. That's the running theme. Fine. And there's nothing wrong with fine. I would rather something be just fine than god awful or actively pissing me off because it was so bad. Thankfully, it wasn't. I loved Dustin's speech, his valedictorian speech at graduation, and he pulled off the thing and it said Hellfire. That was so cool. Like, what a cool way to pay tribute to his friend. And I like at the end where the new D&D group, the younger generation, takes over in the basement as everyone else goes off to live their lives. It makes you bittersweet for it. You know, that time when you were younger and there was nothing but opportunity and potential in front of you. Your life is what it is, and it turns out the way it does. A lot of it out of your control. And you're on the wrong side of 40. And you see stuff like that, and you remember what it felt like. That heartbeat of adrenaline that was in your chest that made you feel invincible. So it did a good job of capturing that spark of youth into adulthood. And yeah, the bad stuff is in my notes, so let's go ahead and get to them and talk about the good and the bad. But I wanted to save the bad nitpicky things for my notes, so let's go.
Philip's notes.
My first note is great. We're starting with a military BS. It just felt very MacGuffin-y with no real resolution. And I understand that since 11 is a non-factor anymore, there's nothing left for the military to gain. I get all that. I just feel like, what was the point? There was so much of it, just what was the point? Like, I did like the scene where 11 made the guy shoot himself, like the tall skinny dude made him shoot himself in the head. But it just felt like padding. And I don't mind. I'm one of the few people, it sounds like, that does not mind the longer episodes. I don't mind it. I don't mind that this was 2 hours long. Cool. Take all the time needed to wrap it up. I like the universe. I like the lore, for the most part. But I think that the military stuff was just absolutely unnecessary. We did not need to bring them back again. Like, we could have killed it off with Papa and left it at that. Especially if we're not going to explore what happened to Henry more and where it came from, which you're assuming there's a correlation there. You know, the Hawkins labs, there has to be a correlation there, right? And I think that the revelation of that makes you feel worse for Henry, because like Will was telling him, you know, you didn't have a choice. You're just a vessel. And he's like, no, we're working together, brah. But it gives the Henry character sympathy. So he's not just like evil for the sake of being evil. It kind of is, but he used to be a regular kid once too. He wasn't born with these powers or anything like that. I understand why they were there, and I understand their usage in the plot, all that stuff. I just think it could have been written differently, or not at all. Because at the end of the day, what was the point? Ultimately, they were just wasting time. I would rather have had that time either shaved off the episodes for everyone else that didn't like them being long, or repurpose it to add to the lore some more. I just don't like the military stuff. I might be alone on my island there, but it's fine. I did like that 11 and Kali brought Max into 11's mind, although that was cool. Then we had a fake out death with Steve on the tower, where the other world is crashing into this one. I just, But when he falls, he his hand slips off the grating, fade to black. I don't know why I closed my eyes. And then come back, and Jonathan has him. That was bait. It was bait. But again, like I've been saying, there's no real consequences to anyone in the show. No one is going to die. One person did die, and I called it. We'll get to it. And even then, she lived longer than you thought to do the convenient plot thing later, which I'm also okay with. But there were no stakes. There were just... You can't build tension if it's a, predetermined outcome that there's no danger. You can't be scared of something if there's no danger. I just... Then I said Kali dies. I wrote... Called it. I said in so many words in the last review that to me she was brought back just to be the token character brought back for the season that dies. And she had a purpose with 11 and helping 11 survive, so I'm not going to say she was completely pointless. Just like in the military, I don't see the point, but I can also get why they were there. I just don't think it really worked. Kali, I get why she was there, but was it really necessary? Yeah, debatable. But she was clearly the one that was... expendable of the group, and she was. So when it happened, yeah. We see the fragment in the case, as said earlier, and the voice says, "Find me," and it's like an evil cloud that calls out to Henry. It's the Mind Flayer. So they are working in tandem, apparently. Henry takes the thing out of the looks like a fragment, like a meteorite fragment or something. But he absorbs it, and that's when the Mind Flayer thing talks to him. He uses his powers unwittingly to kill the guy that had the case. So, I don't know. And then, also earlier I said that the gang was working all together to fight Vecna, but then the little fortress that Vecna was in turned into a freaking big kaiju spider. Mind Flayer looking thing. That was so incredibly stupid. I'm sorry. It is the absolute most absurd part of this episode, in my opinion. They could not have thought of anything else. Like, there are so many parallels to the book It. And by proxy, Welcome to Derry. If I'd been doing reactions, it just would have been like, what are we doing? Yeah, Nancy got to be a badass. Everyone got to work together. But it was a little hokey. I'm sorry. It did not work for me. And then it dies! Because there's never any freaking danger. That's here I wrote that I like that they're all working together to beat Vecna. I did like, that's probably my favorite part of the episode. And then Vecna dies, which I liked. Like, 11 uses her powers and then Joyce decapitates him, which I thought was cool. But Vecna dies, and I checked the video, and there was an hour to go. And I wrote, oh no, is the last hour going to be the military? And then I wrote, called it. Didn't, but I thought I did it first. Because I believe I said in part 2 that they were going to dispatch a Vecna and then have to deal with the military afterwards, and I was hoping they wouldn't do that. They didn't. Military just poof went away after everything happened. At the time, I was thinking, there's an hour left. What are we going to do? And then we spent the last hour, or like 40 minutes or so, wrapping up everyone's plot threads. Then this is going to be, I said the word divisive already. This is going to be, I think this is going to be really divisive. So they set the traps to blow up the Upside Down to When Doves Cry by Prince. On the surface, don't hate it. Growing up, Prince was my favorite artist. Okay, cool. It fits the time. It fits. Okay. It was still pretty damn funny though. I started laughing. And then we have this moment with Eleven and Mike where Eleven pulls him into her mind and she's saying goodbye, which was, a really touching moment. But then we have Purple Rain playing during that. And I'm not trying to be a jerk. If you love those scenes and you love the inclusion, that's fine. I didn't hate them, but it took me out of the scenes. I think it was a bit much. Yeah, I don't know. And then I wrote a side note. I seen Noah Schnapp get a lot of crap about his acting. I've seen a lot of the cast get kind of roasted for their acting. They really don't bother me. But I wrote, say what you want about Noah's acting, the guy knows how to cry. Gotta give him that. He's very good at it. And then we jump ahead 18 months later. I'm sorry if you can hear the traffic. I have to record in here because my neighbor is an asshole and I can't record in my usual room. A year and a half passes. Robin is again the exposition for the missing time, which was fine. It was fine. And then the adults of the group, everyone's an adult in the group now, right? But like the in-universe adults, aside from Joyce and Hopper, and Murray, gross. But the grown-up group says that they're going to meet once a month. Me, being a pessimist, wrote, see how long that lasts. I hope they do. We find out that Elle lived with Kali's help. So, at least she had a purpose, And I said we had the new D&D group, and the torch has been passed. And I liked that. And that was all for my notes. Anything else are from Hitches or Patreon. Again, say it with me, folks. 1, 2, 3. It was fine. It was fine. It was fine. If you saw Stranger Things Season 5, Part 3, Episode 8, what did you think? How did you think of it all wrapping up? 10 years, a decade in the making. Did you like it more than me? Did you hate it more than me? Were there things that bothered you that I didn't talk about, or things you liked that I didn't talk about? I'm kind of glad it's over, and I'm pretty sure the cast is too. So, yeah. Best of luck to everyone involved, and we'll see everyone lands. But that is going to wrap this one up. As always, I don't have a fancy outro, so I will simply say thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.